Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of the harvest season. My name is Al.
And my name is Codey.
And we're here today to talk to you about cottagecore games.
Woo!
Woo!
Woo! Should we start doing it like a roller coaster? Like, woo!
Oh, man, this is going to be a dreadful episode to level.
It's okay. Every time I get loud, I move away from the mic. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
good. I'm being a good noodle.
Hi, Codey. How you doing?
I'm good. I passed my comps. Woo!
Woo!
That means that I have no more tests, no more anything for at least 2 years, and that they've acknowledged that I'm a good noodle, and then I can get the stuff done.
Oh, so this isn't the PhD finished?
No, this is the
Right.
middle. This is
Okay.
basically me like showing. So I basically, in my program, comps is show your committee what you're planning to do, and they ask you a heck ton of questions to make sure that you understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
And ask you a ton of questions to like make sure that you are a good noodle. So some people, if you do not pass your comps, they'll just say, hey, just get a master's instead. Like you're not at the level to be able to get a PhD. But I am at that level, and they said that I did a great job and that I am all set. And if I do everything the way that I've outlined it in my proposal, I will pass with flying colors.
Yeah.
So now they can leave me alone and I can get stuff done for the next 2 years. And I don't have to prove myself anymore.
So this is when the real work begins. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. This is when I like nose to the grindstone. But it's working with a lot of specimens, and I really like working with mine. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. At least I currently am.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what I'll be like in 2 months when this episode comes out?
Yeah, when this episode comes out, you'll be in the middle of vacation, right? Your holiday?
No, I'll actually this one's coming out when I'm back.
Okay.
But I didn't really want to record and release an episode in 2 days. So
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, so I mean that's good. That's I'm current Al, not currently recording, but current in the time that this is out is probably very
hopefully.
But also very like, I'm not ready to come back to work yet.
Great.
We forgot to mention that transcripts are available in the show notes and on the website.
You're trying to take over my job?
A little bit.
I hope you enjoyed Fishing Month. Fishing Month is now over, but I thought I would end my holiday with an episode which is I'm calling Game of the Podcast Year. So every year we do a Game of the Year episode, but because this is a farming game, what's the word I'm looking for? Podcast. And the games that we generally play generally have years that last the 4 months, and then each season of this podcast is 26 episodes and is a month. Well, not a month, a season. We have had, well, now we've actually had 5 seasons, but when I thought this up, we had 4 seasons, therefore a full year. Therefore, we're going to talk about our favorite game of the podcast year, as in this case, 4 years. Man, that was so much more complicated than it needed to be.
Okay, so basically, like in 2019, when the podcast started, that would have been spring.
Yeah.
2020 was summer.
Yeah.
Very bad summer. 2021 would have been fall, and then 2022 would have been winter. So we are now in 2023. So it is now time for us to look back on the last quote year.
But it's actually 4 years, and it's not actually the last year. It's
4
delayed.
years.
It's delayed by nearly 8 months.
Well, we needed some time to like think about it, Get
Let's
our
not
ducks
pretend
in a row.
like we would be thinking about it. We went, what games do we like? These games, great.
These
Done.
ones.
We will talk about that in a few minutes. Oh my word. I need a holiday. So this episode has no news because obviously we are recording out of time because I'm on holiday. It's not quite 2 months because we delayed the recording. It's like a month and a half. So about a month and a half out of date. So if we've not mentioned any ridiculously interesting news, don't worry, it'll be in the next episode. The next episode will be a not live episode. It'll be an in-time episode. We'll cover some news in the next. That's all we'll cover. In the next episode will just be news. Right. I'm not doing anything else for that.
I cannot believe that one game producer did that one thing. It's news that's gonna happen.
So we're just going to talk about that, except first of all, Codey, what have you been up to?
Annoying the crap out of you, man.
What have you had been up to?
I have been up to so back in June, the now of recording, but the months ago, I defended, or oh my gosh, passed my comps, which I already talked about, and now I'm like nose to the grindstones. I'm going to be doing a lot of specimen work, but also that kind of like frees up time to play video games, which I'm super excited about. So I just got Game Pass. So I want to play Farming Simulator. I want to play Disney Dreamlight Valley. There's another game that like it popped up. It was like, we suggest this game for you. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to play that. But I can't remember for the life of me right now.
Also, remember this episode is coming out after all the other episodes, so you can refer to episodes that will have already been out by this point.
Okay.
So you can talk about the fact that you're doing a Farming Simulator one, because it's already happened.
That's the only one. I mean, I want to talk about Disney Dreamlight Valley, but we'll wait for that for the 1.0 release, which was at some point maybe that'll be one of the news items we talk about next week.
Maybe.
And then we can have that on the thing. So we could do a second harvest of Disney Dreamlight Valley, and I'll have played that. I really got into this Tetris game on my phone that I mentioned, I think in the last episode. It's literally just the Tetris game. Like, it's just called like Tetris. By the Tetris company. Like there's no, it's not like a secondhand thing or whatever, but you can earn points that you can then put towards like in real life rewards.
Oh.
The rewards are really like few and far between. So it's like this one high-end restaurant lets you have free beignets for 20,000 points or something. And it takes you like 4 days to get 20,000 points if you're like playing, or even longer than that probably. I've been playing for like 2 weeks and I only have like 30,000. But Al, if I save up 1 million points, I could go on a cruise to Alaska for free.
We're not talking about a real cruise, right?
It's a real cruise. It's a real life cruise. But I have to save up 1 million points. And after playing for 2 weeks straight and getting all the points I can get every single day, I'm at like 30,000 points.
That feels achievable. Like, is there a time limit for this? Like, that feels like a dangerous thing for them to do.
The Alaskan cruise is, you have to like submit, you have to like redeem it or whatever by mid-August.
Okay.
But I think like they'll just have another one after that, I'm pretty sure. I put an entry in to win a 2-person trip on a cruise to the Middle East or the Caribbean or whatever. I don't remember how they phrase it, but I just put like one entry in. So it wasn't like a guaranteed thing, but you can read all the rules for it and everything. It's like 2 days or two people for 8 days, and it's everything.
It just feels like the time that Pepsi had a competition to win a fighter jet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got into a whole bunch of legal trouble because they never thought anybody would ever actually manage to get that many points.
Mm-hmm.
So someone sued them over it because they wouldn't get them a jet.
Yeah. I also remember there was a radio station doing, when I was like 11, there was a radio station doing this, like do X amount of things or like earn, I don't even remember. It was something like collect box tops or collect straws or something really dumb that the radio station was trying to get people to do. And it said, oh, if you do that, then you get a Toyota. And someone did it, and she like went hard on it for like a month to win this thing. Mm-hmm. And they gave her a toy of the Star Wars character Yoda.
Close enough.
It was a Toyota.
Yeah.
And she sued them and she got a car. But yeah, I mean, it says on the thing, it says it's a Norwegian Cruise Lines trip to Alaska. So I don't think I'm mostly memeing. Like, I don't think I'll ever get it. It's
Yeah.
just
Do we need to talk about the environmental impact of cruises?
maybe. Yeah, I have one trip for the Norwegian Cruise Line Middle East Cruise giveaway. You go to Dubai, and it's a 7-day cruise for 2 plus airfare to get there.
A cruise to Dubai. Oh, that's very
also
different from
stay
Alaska.
there's an overnight stay in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I mean this is the one that you only have to pay $1,000 to like win an entry to get it.
Oh.
Where's the other?
Which means you're not winning.
Correct. Like I'm not expecting to win that one, but I could. But there's like the one that you can actually just straight up buy. Oh, I gotta like scroll all the way over. Oh, you can win for like 45. You can get like half off a night at a hotel.
I'm being blind. I can't see Dubai on the map. It must. Why am I blind? I can see Saudi Arabia,
I think that's where it
UAE,
is.
Oman, Yemen.
Oh,
Kuwait.
Dubai's a city.
Oh, that's why. It's in UAE. Oh, such an idiot. Right.
Oh
okay.
yeah, I can get one complimentary night at Mandalay Bay.
Where does the cruise go from?
The Dubai one?
Yeah.
This is the news people really wanted.
Well, yeah, what is this episode? My word.
During your overnight stay in Abu Dhabi, explore blah blah blah. You go to Bahrain. It wants me to go to a website.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It's like that would be a lot. That like depending on where it goes from, that could be a very long cruise because it's like
it's only 7 days.
Okay, yeah, you must be flying.
Set
somewhere
sail out of Dubai on December 13th.
Right. Okay. So from Dubai.
From Dubai, and then probably goes back. I don't know, but like it goes. You stop in Abu Dhabi, you stop in Bahrain, you stop in Daman.
So this is just round the Persian Gulf then.
Yeah, it's just a Norwegian cruise line cruise. I've never been on a cruise.
Neither have I. I
might win. Well, you know what? I'm gonna rub this in your face, Al.
I'm not really sure you would be rubbing it in my face because I don't like boats. Anyway, anything else you've been up to?
No, I'm just gonna be playing. I'll probably not even be playing this Tetris game anymore in 2 months. Let's be honest. What have you been up to, Al? Like, where are you? What's your vacation? Have you talked about that on the pod yet?
Oh, it's just my usual going to the Isle of Man.
You have like a house on that?
No, I don't know. It's really complicated. So there's a charity that I do stuff for. They own a building that they use for a bunch of things, and we stay there. Okay. So I'm not that kind of rich.
That's not
own a house.
That's not that complicated. You said it was really complicated, and I was like, that's pretty easy.
I simplified it.
Okay, I mean it makes sense.
Yeah, I've not been. I mean, as of recording, I've not been playing much because my Switch is still with Nintendo getting fixed.
Oh yeah.
And listeners will be fed up hearing that because I feel like I've said that about 7 times in the last 2 weeks. But hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, I'll have it.
You'll have it back.
That's
the one that had all your Pokemon saves on it, right?
It is, yeah. Ugh. Yeah. I just yesterday ordered. Nope, today. I just today ordered Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life, so that should be coming in the next couple of days, and I'm sure I'll play it in a couple of weeks. And I had a voucher for a shop and ordered Pikmin 4, so I will have that by the time this comes out. And I just got One Lonely Outpost, so I might be playing that. Who knows? We'll see what I actually end up playing. I also want to play the original Harvest Moon at some point because that is now on Switch as well. Yeah. So
cool.
Well, other than that, just been kind of watching some stuff and doing some stuff, and yeah, nothing in particular. This is the problem with doing so many podcasts in a couple of weeks is there's not much to say about what I've been up to because people heard it either 1 week ago or 6 weeks ago, depending on which podcast you listen to.
Because I'm about to record another podcast and I'm going to probably talk about my comp song.
It's fine. At least so that is a good chunk away from each other, right? Like next week compared to a month and a half away. So
correct.
I think we'll be good with that.
Cool.
Awesome. Should we talk about our game of the podcast year? Okay, so just to summarize what's happening again. So there have been, excluding the current year, 2023, there were 4 years of the podcast up till now. 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. and we are going to decide amongst us what the game of the podcast year is, basically the game of those 4 years. So I'm not going to read out the whole list, but what I did just realize is I should probably read out the 4 individual game of the years that we gave. I say we. Were you actually involved in any of those? You were involved at least one of them.
I was involved in one of them, and you
Just
guys
one of them.
snubbed APICO.
We did.
It was a demo at that point.
So 2019, we gave Doraemon Story of Seasons the game of the year. In 2020, we gave Summer and Mara game of the year. In 2021, we gave. Oh yeah, that was the one that we gave Spiritfarer to, even though it came out the year before, because it came out really late in the year. So that's why I was excusing that. And in 2020, we gave Ooblets the game of the year. So yeah, I mean, the rule basically is any game that came out in those 4 years, and I was allowing early access, but not demos. But I believe there's only 3 games that came out in early access that haven't then also released their 1.0 since then, because obviously 4 years is a long time, and all 3 of them released last year. So yeah, I guess shall we alternate for what we want, because we've both chosen our top 5-ish. Do we want to alternate? Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I will start off top with APICO. And I'm not biased here. I just really like.
Do you get to choose a game that you're in? Does that count?
I wasn't in the original, and to be honest, I haven't played the part where I'm in yet. I've still not had the time. But it's just such a cute little game, and I always really like when a developer has used real world stuff and real science to try and educate and empower people. And Elle did an amazing job with that with APICO. And the game, it was another really good. The game is also a really good example of community feedback and a developer working with the community, because not only Elle meeting me and then asking me about solitary bees and then coming up with a whole, DLC that has that, or I guess it's not a DLC because you don't have to pay for it. It's just there.
Let's not do that debate.
But like, not only that of, him reaching out to people that study things and working with his community in that way, but also like if someone has an issue and they talk about it on the Discord, he's really receptive to that as well. So I really like APICO. That was one of my top 5, just for for it being a good game, a fun game, a good developer, a good community.
Yeah, no, I it's not on my list. Purely because it's not my favorite kind of game, but it definitely has the quality, and definitely has the care put into it. That is absolutely all true, and I totally understand why you would choose that.
Yeah. What about you, Al?
Let's start off with Summer and Mara.
Okay.
So I mean, this was the game of year in 2020, and I think it has held up pretty well. It's not a perfect game by any means. There were some kind of issues, but the kind of the love and care throughout the game felt like it was really there. It just felt like it was such a happy game. It covered, well, happy, sad game, right? It really felt like it covered the feelings of cottagecore for me, and it was a lovely balance of exploration, but not too explorationary. Right, you didn't feel like the world was too massive to explore everything. That I really like when you've got, here's a big world and it's a bunch of islands, because that is very clearly like, oh, I know I've explored everything because I've been to every island, and I know that I've looked on everywhere on every island. Whereas a massive world that isn't islands, you're like, oh, where have I been? Like, down what paths have I been? What mountains have I been into? What caves, etc. Whereas the island aspect of things really works well. So I think it was the first farming exploration game that I actually liked, because the balance of all that was really well done.
Cool. Yeah, because you're a newbie at a farming game. So
yeah, Sure.
That makes sense.
I mean, compared to people who started playing like A Wonderful Life, yeah. But I mean, it was 2017, so it wasn't like 2 years ago.
It was when the podcast started.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I've not gotten into that game yet, so I can't.
What's next?
I will do one of the ones that is on both of our lists. Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the first ones that you guys talked about. And that it was just so long awaited. It had been a long time since it felt like a long. I actually got a Switch specifically for New Horizons.
Oh.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked. And I played pretty regularly for like 3 or 4 months. But it came out in 2020, didn't it?
Yeah,
I got my Switch for it in 2019 because I thought it was going to come out in the winter.
It was
and
meant to be
delayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a really fun game. You know, the classic, you're a villager and you've got other animals living on your farm or on your island, and I really love some of the new characters that they put in. I can never remember her name, but I call her Bisexual Galaxy Bear.
Judy.
Yeah, Judy. I like Judy and I like Raymond, David Bowie cat. So I still am on the quest for David Bowie cat. I have not found him. Judy's on my island.
You not just ended up buying the I'm
amiibo
still
card. Just trying to find him. Playing it on hard mode. But I think my favorite thing about New Horizons compared to other games was that museum felt so immersive, especially like the fossil collection, and like it's like you're walking through the evolutionary history. I really enjoyed that.
It's funny because like you can look back at many of these games and go like, that's the point where this thing became a standard, right? And so many of those things come from Stardew Valley, right? Like the idea of having a museum in the first place, right? Like that, it wasn't standard until like the Stardew made that the standard. I'm not saying nothing had it before, but I feel like that was the point where everything had to have a museum. I'm not saying it was good. It definitely wasn't a good museum. It was a terrible museum. But in terms of like, find a farming game after that doesn't have a museum. But anyway, that's not the point. The point isn't specific to that, right? Like there's loads of things that Stardew did that are like, that is kind of when this became standard, like sprinklers, for example. And I think Animal Crossing's museum was that for good museums, shall we say. So it was the point where people went, oh, this can be good. This can be enjoyable. This can be fancy. And it's just kind of like it's the thing to do in farming games now is to make your fancy museum, you know, and like Coral Island took that to a new level by having 2 different ones. Like it's almost like nobody ever thought that it would be something that you could put some time and effort into curating, ironically, considering that's the point of a museum.
I do think the first Animal Crossing, which was released in 2001, had a museum, and they did it really well. And then they've increased it and stuff. But I do think that, like what you're saying, like I don't think that because Animal Crossing had it, everyone started having museums. I do think Stardew Valley was probably the precursor for that.
Yeah, and I think New Horizons was the point where it was like it can now be like fancy, right? And it can be an attraction in and of itself and not just a checklist, essentially.
Yeah, New Leaf, it was okay in New Leaf, especially the aquarium side of it. But the fossil side always just felt like not very immersive. And sometimes the insects, but it really does in New Horizons.
Yeah. So. Do you know what I was a bit surprised didn't become a standard after New Horizons? Because I know we're still only 3 years since it, but I feel like we're seeing things now as impacted by it quite a bit. Terraforming, I feel like that's it's not become common. There's a few games that have it, but it's not very common. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
I
because
did.
it's complicated and difficult, right?
I did talk about it with Bev on an episode a long time ago, a couple months ago now. I think it was Garden Galaxy. It has some terraforming
Yeah.
aspects to it.
I mean,
But it
yeah,
was
that's
one of
its
those
whole
things like,
concept. Yeah.
yeah, it was one of those things like I saw it in that game and I was like, oh wow, like this is a lot like
Yeah.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people do it, like
No.
you're saying. It
Littlewood
can
has
be
it.
really finicky. It's hard to
Littlewood
do.
has it, and a couple of other games that are coming out in the next couple of years have it. But it's not standard by any means. But yeah, I think despite everybody's kind of issues with it, it is still definitely one of the best games of the last 4 years. Definitely. I don't think, as you say, it was on my list as well. I don't think I would say it. I wouldn't be arguing for it to be the top.
Yeah.
Purely because like it never. There was just always something about it that meant that I was feeling it was lacking, and I don't think it was the character stuff that a lot of people had, and I totally understand that issue. I still can't figure out what it was, but there was still something about it that made me just not as enthusiastic about it as some of the other games on this list.
Yeah. It's an all right game though. And it's something that I go back and play it every now and then because I am missing.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I wish I could go back, but it's just not my style of playing games.
Yeah.
But I look forward to, when the next game comes out, seeing when we saw with New Leaf where it was like, oh, my grandma's had like 3,000 hours on,
Yeah.
on New Leaf or whatever. Seeing that with New Horizons.
Yeah.
And of course, the big thing about it was that it was just popular, right? Like in terms of sales, it was insane.
There was a plague and we all had to be inside.
A what?
We all, like, it was literally like right after the world shut down that Animal Crossing came, like within a week, Animal Crossing came out. And so everyone was playing it.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously a lot of that is to do with that. But I don't think it can be entirely due to that, because if you think, like, the numbers are just insane, right? So the total number of sales of Animal Crossing games is 77 million, right? 77 million total. New Horizons, 42 million.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's more than half. That's significantly more than half of all Animal Crossing sales are that one game. It was 3 times as many sales as New Leaf, right? Like, absolutely, the released on literally the week that lots of countries shut down. Right? Like, it could not be any closer, right? It came out on the 20th of March 2020. The last day I ever worked in an office was the 13th of March 2020.
Yeah.
Exactly a week before it, right? Like, obviously that has a massive thing, but I think it just did so much perfect. And also the fact that it was on the Switch, right? Like, the Switch in and of itself has caused many games to be popular. All right,
well, that's that one. What's your next one?
I will choose the other one that we've both put on our lists, and that is Spiritfarer.
My heart.
So with this game, I struggle to point out faults. Yeah, I mean, how I've said so much about Spiritfarer over the years, it's hard to say more.
Yeah.
It is as close to a perfect game as you can get. I mean, some people won't like it, but if you don't like it, it's because you don't like that kind of game. No, it's not. It's really hard to explain how good a game Spiritfarer is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is both heart-wrenching and heartwarming at the same time. The controls are great. The platforming is good. The boat is just such a fun place to move around. It does the beautiful thing of you're exploring, but you're exploring with your house. So there's like almost no stakes for anything.
Yeah.
You can just go to bed, right? Like, the furthest away you are from your boat is when you're on an island and you're at the far end of the island, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much about this. The characters are great. The art is great. Every single mechanic is at least good, if not great. And even the ones that are frustrating by design, right? To give you a little bit of a challenge. There's there's always some small level of stakes, but never a huge amount of stakes. Like with cooking, if you leave it too long, it burns, but you have to leave it quite a long time.
Yeah, it's got to be there
You
a
know,
while.
so it's like everything is just like the fishing, as will have been discussed in the previous episode, is an incredibly good fishing mini game. Everything about it is just such a good game.
The fishing at first for me was a little frustrating, because you have to like you tap like some of the fish are really hard to catch, and I would
Yeah.
break the line every single time, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. But then I googled it because I was like, I've tried this so many times, and every single time I mess up.
Yeah, okay,
So.
there we go. We've got the flaw. The flaw is there are
No,
a few
the
no, no,
flaw
no. The flaw is that they didn't explain it properly.
the flaw is Buck. My one problem. Well, I also don't really lynx, but
the thing is, right, it's not about whether you like the characters or not, because the characters are doing something even if you don't like them.
Yeah,
right?
I guess. I just don't really like I've found all the other characters I was so invested in their story and so invested in helping them, and with Buck I'm like, okay, shut up.
How late did you get Buck?
Like the last I couldn't even find him for a while.
That I think I've generally found that the characters that people like least are the ones they get later on.
Yeah.
And you just at that point you're just like, I'm at the point where I just want to finish the game. And I think so like I was the same. I can't even remember who it was that I had last.
The other flaw is that my heart hurt a lot.
That's not a flaw. That's a feature. That's the thing. Like there are not many games that make me cry.
I love
right.
It's a feature. I want it like listed in the features of the
crying
game.
Is a feature.
There's farming, there's animals, you can cry.
Not
in the game, like you really like in real life cry. Yeah, my poor roommate. She was concerned for my mental health. Because the other thing is I'd get like sucked in and I'd play for like 8 hours straight. And then she'd come downstairs and I would just be bawling because I just took someone to the Everdoor. She's just like, maybe that's enough. And I was like, I'm sad. So
yeah.
No, I agree. Like I really can't. It's the quote unquote flaws are really just being nitpicky.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't want people to say that bring up all there are obviously flaws. I'm not actually trying to say it's a flawless game. It's not. No game is perfect.
I really can't think.
They're all really small.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I didn't like the wood chopping game. Yeah, of course you didn't. It's meant to be annoying.
Yeah.
Right? Like
they're meant to be different.
You try making 10 different mini games.
Yeah. And having them all be unique.
Yeah.
Like none of them really felt the same.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, well, that's hard to follow, but
should I have left that to last? That's the problem.
Gosh, okay, so
it's time to make a decision. Come on.
I already made the decision. It was so I'll mention. I guess I'll leave an honorable mention for the end. So I will mention.
Maybe we should have done that at the beginning. Oh, well.
My next in my top 5 is Lens Island. So this is one that I covered with Bev before it was in 1.0. And when I covered it, it was pretty sparse. Like there wasn't a lot going on in the game. So yeah, Lens Island, played it with Bev, played it before it was fully released. And so there's actually a lot that I haven't played that I see, that I've seen like on their Twitter and stuff. And every single time I'm like, oh, I need to go back to that game and play it. But even playing the not limited edition, like it is special, but like
no, I know what you mean. The early access.
The early access game that was limited in features was just really fun. And it was a fun little exploration. Like you explore the island. It was only a small island at the time. They have way more that you can explore now. You can kind of build up your house, which a lot of people got really crazy with. And then build up like your, you can get like a really good sword, and then you can go into the mines, and the mines, there's like some crazy spawners that reminded me a lot of Gauntlet. I don't know if you've ever played Gauntlet.
No.
But it's a game that used to be like a arcade style, like literally stand up and like have like an arcade machine, where there's 4 classes and there's these like spawners that spawn monsters until you destroy the spawner. Also happens in Minecraft, but the way that they did it reminded, and like a lot of the visuals of the game reminded me a lot of Gauntlet, which was very nostalgic for me. They didn't have too much farming. I think they have more of it now, but it was just kind of a cool little exploration game, and I just really enjoyed it, and I really want to get back into it. But when looking at the list of the 4 lists from these years that we did, I was like, oh man, I love that game, and that's a game that I want to continue playing. That's why it's on my top.
Yeah. Cool.
You never played it, right?
I still haven't played it. No. It's still on my list to play it at some point. I tried picking it up at one point and it didn't really, when I got my Steam Deck, and it didn't really support the Steam Deck at that point. So I was just a bit meh. So it's on my list to play at some point, but not yet.
Cool. What's your next pick?
I'm gonna go for Ooblets next. Ooblets, I understand why some people don't like the silly names. I understand, right? You don't need to tell me again after this episode, listeners, right? I know. But I know some of you don't like the silly names.
Silly names.
There are silly names. I know. But what I will say is they make it abundantly clear that there are silly names.
Yeah.
Its whole thing is silly names. So if you go into that game not expecting silly names, I'm sorry, did you read anything? So I love Ooblets so much. It's so adorable and just like it's just pure ridiculousness and fun. And there's nothing else. It's not Spiritfarer. It doesn't bring you in with the fun and then shoot you right in the heart. No.
Yeah.
The story is not complicated. The story is not convoluted. The story doesn't tug at your heartstrings. It is, as I discussed on the last Ooblets episode with Johnny, it is an anti-capitalist story, but that's about it. It is only just an anti-capitalist story, right? Like that is the most it goes to is, oh, this corporation's bad, right? Like that's it. But everything about it is fun, right? Like the characters are fun, the Ooblets themselves are fun, the battles are fun, the farming is fun, the animations are ridiculous and fun. I like the names. The names are ridiculous and stupid and fun, right? Like I think everything about it is just about being stupid and silly and fun, and I like it.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but it's definitely I know. It was I think I was waiting for it to come to Switch, and then when it finally came to Switch, I was broke. So, that was my issue there. But hopefully here in the next few months, after I get another roommate, I'll be able to afford things again and be able to play it, because I know we need to second harvest it.
We've already second harvested.
Third harvest.
second harvest. In fact, have we just done 2 or have we done 3? Yeah, okay, just 2. Wait, no, 3. No, it is 3, because we did early access, we did 1.0, and then we did second harvest.
Oh my gosh. Story of Season Friends of Mineral Town Digital Edition is about to be on...
Woo.
Sorry, I'm looking up the things that are going to be on Game Pass.
So you go get that 2020 game. 2021? I can't remember.
City Skylines. Okay, sorry.
Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town. 2019. 2019, not even 2020. My word. That was the first year. Oh, my word.
Does that feel like just yesterday?
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Rune Factory 4 Special is also on this, but that's not on my list. So I guess this is my 5th pick, but then I also will mention my special mention.
Do you want to go? Do you want to just mention your honorable mention just now? Because I don't want us to mention honorable mention after we announce the winner.
Okay.
Right. Like feels like here's the winner and here's the other one.
Well, yeah. Okay. So my honorable mention is Alba, a wildlife tale.
A wildlife adventure.
A wildlife adventure. Thank you. Where you play as this young girl named Alba who is running around on an island, and you are helping the wildlife on the island, and you're taking pictures of all of them. But basically, there's a wildlife refuge, and it is currently run down, but you go around and you build it up better, and you document the wildlife on your island, and you end up stopping your evil mayor person or whomever it is, I can't remember, from creating a skyscraper, a hotel. Because they were going to tear down the wildlife refuge and make and build a hotel, and you and your friend stopped that from happening. It was just a really cute game, a fun game. I was able to beat it in like 2 days. I played it on Apple Arcade. And I mean, it's visually gorgeous. It had a lot of really good animals in it. I think my biggest qualm was I would have liked insects, but whatever, I get it. But it was just a really fun game, and I super recommend it if you have Apple Arcade already. So that was my honorable mention. Do you want me to do my fifth one, or do you want?
I've got to talk about Alba as well, don't I? Right? Like, it's a great game.
You played it as well?
Oh, absolutely. Did we not do the episode together?
We probably did.
It's a great game. It was definitely one of the top games of 2020. It was really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a long time ago.
It was 2020. I really liked it. It was a fun short game. Like, it wasn't very long, which I like. But yeah, it definitely felt like the story was pretty easy to predict. Let's not pretend. But it was still fun. It's a cliched story, but cliches exist for a reason.
Yeah.
No, it was fun. The gameplay was fun. It was good to have, like, as far as I can tell, it was reasonably accurate in what it was showing you and telling you in terms of the animals. Yeah. Good game.
I agree.
Thank you for telling me my opinion is correct.
Is why I was on my honorable mention. So do you want to do your last one, and then I'll do my last one?
Yeah, my last one is Doraemon Story of Seasons. Not the second one. The first one. Very specifically. Didn't like the second one as much.
But you played the first one. You did that one or you did this one with Micah, right?
So the first one, I think it was me and Rochelle and Micah who covered. I think all three of us were on that one.
Fun.
And the second one, it was me and Micah. I really like it. I think it brought a lot of interesting ideas to farming games that I hadn't seen elsewhere. And I think other games need to look at it more for inspiration. I think the things that it was doing that are different are things that other games should be doing. And I think maybe just enough people haven't played it. I don't know. I still find it odd that we got a second game in this series. Yeah, it's a good game. I like it. Gorgeous looking, fun little weird crossover, loads of really interesting mechanics that were new to farming games. Yeah, fun.
I did not.
Yeah, I feel like most people didn't.
So I
even played the Japanese only demo of it. Because why not? What's your last one?
Translations there.
Oh, let me tell you, playing a game through my phone screen because I'm using Google Translate, not the best way to play a game.
Yep. Would not do that. My last one is Bear and Breakfast. So this is the one that came out last year where you are a bear and you run a bed and breakfast, and you end up running like a couple different ones. And it was just such a cute game. So like heartwarming. We played it right on release. And I only got to play it for a couple days because we wanted to record like pretty close after release, or maybe it might have been one that I procrastinated on. Let me actually redact that. But it was really fun. And it's such a beautiful game. It's kind of like a management game where you have, people come in and they want specific room types. And so you want to make sure that you have what they want. And if you're not wearing pants, the people get scared of you and they run away because they recognize that you're a bear. But if you put pants on, it's all you have to do is put pants on.
It's like Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah. And then they're like,
a bear. Oh, wait, no,
fine.
a hairy human.
It's just a hairy human who's got pants on.
Amazing.
It was and a lot of the characters were really fun. That's a game that I didn't get to play as much as I would have liked. So
play it more.
I'm going to, for sure, especially now that I have more time and now that my computer room doesn't have a cat.
Probably not for the next month though, if you have Game Pass.
Yeah, I am looking at all the game. Like I'm currently going through all of the games that I could play.
Mm-hmm.
I've already played Hollow Knight.
Record the podcast first.
Record what podcast first?
This podcast.
Oh, the farming simulator one. Right.
The one we're currently talking on.
You just mentioned Game Pass, and I was like, yeah. Okay, well, which of your top 5 is like, would you say is your top one, Al?
Well, I think it's clear what our combined top one would be, don't you?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Spiritfarer, right?
It's Spiritfarer.
Like the only 2 games that we both chose were Spiritfarer and Animal Crossing, and I think both of us said that Animal Crossing is definitely in the top 5, but not the top one. Yeah. Therefore, it has to be Spiritfarer.
Yeah. The other thing is all of my other games I have not finished, but Spiritfarer I could not put it down. Even though I've already got credits, but I'm 100%ing it, so I still have some things that I need to do. But part of me is putting it off because I don't want it to be over. I might create a new save and do it all again, honestly.
I think there's a lot of replay value in that. I know that me and Kelly did the first Spiritfarer episode. I know that when I asked her to do it, she was like, oh yeah, and just replayed the whole game to do it. And then we did the DLC one and she replayed it all again to do all the DLC content as well. I don't have the time and patience for that, so I just had the one save. But I can totally see the replay value in that. And if it's something that you enjoyed and you enjoy replaying some things, then I think it's definitely a game you could do that with.
It's just so good.
It is, and I think nothing comes quite close to it in that kind of thing. It depends what you're looking for. If you're not looking for a game to make you cry, right? If you're like, I do not want a game to make me cry, I just want to forget about everything, right? Maybe you've had a bunch of death and you don't want to think about that. You want it, then absolutely it's not the game for you. Go play Animal Crossing. Right? There are so many games that ignore that sort of stuff, but I think more and more often, and I'm going to put this out there and say that I feel like this was a thing that Stardew started as well, is that it's not just that farming games are just mindless things for mindless farming simulators. They are touching parts of humanity that it's hard to deal with. And I feel like Stardew was the first one that really did that with Lars in particular in Stardew. I can't think of a game that has touched something as difficult as a homeless person who really wants to continue being homeless. So you
mean Linus.
Oh, sorry, Linus, not Lars.
Yeah.
Oh, names.
It's all good. But no, it's hard. It can be really difficult for some games to get to a personal level on that way with characters, especially games like this that are cottagecore games are usually tend to seem more cutesy.
Exactly.
And more like you're saying, surface level. But yeah, Linus is an oof.
Yeah. And I feel like that was the first thing that in cottagecore games that was you can do this, and I think the difference with Spiritfarer is you could play 1,000 hours in Stardew and never see that story.
Yeah.
You can't do that in Spiritfarer. You'll see all of the story if you keep playing.
Yeah. You can't avoid it.
No.
Even if you want to. Even if you
But you don't want to.
Even if you think you're just going to have a party and everything's going to go on just fine. And
Let's
then
not
the
do
next morning, you can't find
Careful. No spoilers.
You can't find it. I'm not going to say anything more. But yeah, that game.
It's good on so many levels. Like, it's not just like, oh, it does this good. No, it does so many things really well.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they do going forward. Like them as I know that they have a game that like just came out.
It's not out yet. It's coming out next year.
Yeah, there was just
33 Immortals.
Yeah. It's so different,
I have no idea if I'm going to like that game or not.
It's so different.
It's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's certainly, I don't think, going to have the same story, but
yeah,
who knows what they'll do. I think the thing that makes Spiritfarer really click with the story is that almost all the stories are based on stories from the team. Like, they are real stories.
Yeah. That's why we can all relate to it so much. Yeah. I mean, like, you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is Alzheimer's and it's my grandma. Mm-hmm. Or, so it's just really difficult. But
yep. So and if you haven't dealt with that yet, you probably will.
Yeah. And then, and that's like, and then this game can be cathartic because it can, okay. We're not going to get into it. This isn't spoilers. It's just such a good game. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yep. Agreed. Awesome. Congratulations, Spiritfarer. You are the first, and what's the wording for this? Game of the podcast year winner for year one of the podcast.
When is your so year 2 will be 2023 spring, 24 summer, 25
no. We've sped it up because we're keeping the seasons the same number of episodes, but we're doubling the number of episodes, remember?
Oh my god.
So the next podcast year will be at the end of 24.
Okay.
Because we're already in summer.
Yeah.
Well, technically we're not as of recording, because we're recording on the 28th of June. So it's like we just today released the last episode of spring.
Mm-hmm.
Next week. Your episode, Codey, Farming Simulator. That's the first episode of summer. Not to be confused with the actual summer. Why did I do this? I thought it was a clever, funny, cute idea. It's just annoying.
It is clever. Anyway. I think it would be like more relevant if we say like welcome to spring day 1 or welcome to spring day 2. But that might also be
really that's true. I just ended up just doing it as like people can completely ignore it.
Year 1 spring day number 5.
I bet there are listeners listening now who was like, oh, I didn't realize that was how. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Codey, for joining me for this one-of-a-kind episode, probably.
It won't be one of a kind at the end of 2024.
Well, because the thing is, then we'll just be doing a game for 2 years rather than 4 years. It's a very different thing.
That's true.
There's also too many games coming out.
This did cover a lot of games.
Like, the next one would just be, what's going to win Game of the Year? The 2023 Game of the Year or the 2024 Game of the Year? Mm-hmm. Because I think half of the ones we mentioned were Games of the Year. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not coincidentally. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you on the internet?
I am my name on Twitter, Codey Mathis. And then on Instagram, I am Hiking Beagle, Beagle with 2 E's, Beegle, where I post a lot of stuff about my dogs.
You can find me on Twitter and on mastodon.scot at thescotbot. You can find the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. You can find links to lots of things, including things that we mentioned on the podcast and all the things for the podcast on our website, harvestseason.club. There's also a feedback form there. If you want to send in feedback, send us feedback. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell us what your favorite game of 2019 to 2022 is. Yeah. And if it's not Spiritfarer, you better have a good reason why it's not Spiritfarer.
And that reason is likely that you didn't get to play Spiritfarer.
Yeah,
but
that is that's the best
because
reason
I
for
don't
it.
think anyone who has played Spiritfarer would disagree with that.
Well, if you disagree with Codey and you have played Spiritfarer, then send us feedback. Let us know. And why it isn't your game of the podcast year.
Why?
You can also support the podcast. If you like the podcast, you can support it on Patreon, patreon.com/thspod. Give me money, where you can find extra episodes of the podcast. I have no idea what's going to be coming up on the next episode of the Greenhouse because what is time? This is August, apparently.
Yeah.
And I haven't even finished planning July.
It's all good.
There'll be some stuff, right? If there hasn't been something in the last couple of weeks, there will be multiple because I'm going to make sure that there's 2 a month.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm thinking of some things that I can put up on the
Sounds good. You record them, I'll edit them. That's how it works.
Yep.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you again, Codey, for joining me.
Thank you.
And until next time, have a good harvest.
Wow, that was so good.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
It was very slow.
Well, it's because we're both like
it's the one point on the episode we both sound drunk.
Well, I feel like we have to like have a video that we can both like look at each other because we're doing it just based on audio.
Well, that wouldn't help either because it's still out of time. I think the important thing is we just say it, and I always trim it and cut it and put it together, so it always sounds like we said it at the same time.
Well, this time we did it right. You can just speed it up a little bit.
No promises. If it sounded right for you, it probably wasn't right for me. Anyway, great. Thank you, Codey.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Almost exactly an hour.